Wealth of Some Nations, section. Unequal exchange based on different organic compositions of capital. Trade between firms and industries with a low and high, quote, organic composition of capital, respectively, ensures a transfer of value from the former to the latter. Marx refers variously to the technical composition of capital, the value or price composition of capital, and the organic composition of capital. He writes, quote, I call the value composition of capital, insofar as it is determined by technical composition, and mirrors the changes of the latter, the organic composition of capital, end quote. For Marx, as capital, dead labor, accumulates, and is increasingly employed relative to wages, living labor. The organic composition of capital rises, and the rate of profit tends to fall. The qualifier emphasized in the above quote is, however, highly significant, since the value of labor power, what Marx called a variable capital, quote, can change without any change in the technical composition in circumstances in which workers themselves can receive more or less, while producing with the same technology. End quote. As capital is withdrawn from industries with low rates of profit and invested in those with higher rates, output, supply, in the former declines, and its prices rise above the actual sums of value and surplus value the particular industry produces, and conversely. Thus capitals with different organic compositions, the ratio between constant and variable capital, ultimately sell commodities at average prices, and surplus value is distributed more or less uniformly across the branches of production according to the proportional share of capital, constant and variable, advanced. Marxist economist Michael Roberts has noted how Marx discerned two types of, quote, rent, that is, the capacity to appropriate, as opposed to generate, additional profit in the global economy. He writes, beginning of long quote, the first type of rent is absolute rent, where the monopoly ownership of an asset, land, could mean the extraction of a share of surplus value from the capitalist process, without investment in labor and machinery to produce commodities. The second form, Marx called differential rent. This arose from the ability of some capitalist producers to sell at a cost below of more inefficient producers, and so extract a surplus profit. As long as the low-cost producers could stop others adopting even lower-cost techniques by blocking entry into the market, employing large economies of scale in funding, controlling patents, and making cartel deals. This differential rent could be achieved in agriculture by better yielding land, nature, but in modern capitalism, it would be through a form of technological rent, i.e., monopolizing technological innovation. End of long quote. Monopoly firms can extract imperialist rent from producers with institutionally lower capital intensities. Polish socialist Henryk Grossman, 1881 to 1950, was the first economist to develop a theory of value transfer based on Marx's ideas on non-equivalent exchange according to different organic compositions of capital, namely the ratio between constant and variable capital outlay, that is, between the price of raw materials and fixed capital and the price of labor power. In the following hypothetical situation, labor is exploited at a rate of 100% in Europe and only 25% in Asia, with different relative quantities of fixed capital used in each region. Here, C equals constant capital, V equals variable capital, S equals surplus value. The rate of exploitation, rate of surplus value, equals S divided by V, and the rate of profit equals S divided by C plus V. In Asia, the value of the product is 16C plus 84V plus 21S equals 121, and the rate of profit is 21 divided by 100, 21%. In Europe, the value of the product is 84C plus 16V plus 16S equals 116, and the rate of profit is 16 divided by 100, 16%. For Grossman, in trade between the two countries, the output of the more developed capitalist country, with a higher average organic composition of capital, is sold at prices above its value, the quantity of average socially necessary labor embodied, while the converse is the case with less developed capitalist countries. In this case, insofar as the rate of profit tends to equalize on the world market with higher rates attracting investment and thus creating a tendency towards an equal rate of profit globally, a uniform rate of 18.5% is earned in both countries, with the European country selling at 118.5 instead of 116. As such, surplus value created in the Asian country is transferred to the technologically more developed country through trade, because surplus is distributed according to the capital invested, not value created. Contrary to Rosa Luxemburg, therefore, who theorized that imperialism was principally aimed at the realization of surplus value through the export of a surfeit of unsaleable goods to non-capitalist markets, Grossman understood imperialism as facilitating the transfer of surplus value from one country to another by means of the form of non-equivalent exchange described above. Luxemburg may be further criticized insofar as it is clear that from the late 19th century it was not pre-capitalist territories that were imperialism's consumers of last resort, but the metropolitan proletariat itself. End of section.